Hello, friends, and welcome to Into Fly Fishing. I'm Nic Jovanovich, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite patterns, the Spanish bullet. So here we go. All right, friends, thanks again for being here. I'm Nic Jovanovich. This is Into Fly Fishing, and today we are talking about one of my favorite patterns to tie and to fish, the Spanish bullet. Now, I have to admit, a few years ago when these things started hitting the US market and being dropped into all these fly shops, Perdigons, Spanish bullets, I was very resistant to. I didn't like how they looked. They didn't look like anything in particular to me. I would rather fish something that looked a little bit more realistic, and I had more confidence in that. Boy, was I wrong. When I started fishing these things, they were absolute game changers. I'm not really sure what it is. It could be that it's just a very thin body and it looks a little bit buggier than all these thicker, more quote unquote realistic flies out there. It may just be that it looks different than everything else that everybody's throwing. It may be that it represents a few different things that the fish are seeing. Not really sure. All I know is that it does get fish and it has really great movement. The weighted front end, when you use an oversized, heavy slotted bead, or even some lead-free wire to add weight on the front end near the eyelet of that hook, these things have incredible motion. I use an open loop knot all the time on these things, and the way that they jump up and drop down is phenomenal. They just get eaten. Now, the particular bullet that we're talking about today is going to be the olive Spanish bullet with an orange hot color. So got a little bit of that attractiveness to it with the orange hot color. It is a flashback as well. So if you ask me, I'm fishing this right now. It's great wintertime fly to tie and fish. I'm thinking that they're probably eating it for, well, a blue wing olive. You got that flashback like a blue wing emerger. Also, possibly could be getting scraped up as a caddis condo as well. The shape and the color often resembles the caddis condos that are stuck to the rocks and twigs under the water. Now, I also fish this fly in the hot weather of the summer, and I think it's for the same reason. Now, I know blue wings aren't hatching in the summer. A lot of different mayflies are that are in the brown and gray category, so I'm not sure why an olive works, but this fly, especially with the hot color, for some reason really works for me in the hot summer as well. And it's usually in times when there's not a lot of hatches going on, so it's an attention getter. And also, some fish might be foraging around and scraping it up as a caddis condo. Again, I've actually seen a lot of rainbows in the dead of the summer when there's not a lot of bug movement, rooting around and scraping those caddis condos off of rocks and twigs. So whatever the case may be, it gets eaten. Now, before we go any further, if you don't mind, just like this video, follow this channel, and check us out on the other social media channels. It would be a big deal for us. Now, your support matters big time. It takes a lot of time, effort, and yes, a lot of money to do this for you. We love doing it. We want to keep doing it. So your support is greatly appreciated. Also, we're featuring some Aventik gear in this video here. If you would like to check out any of that gear, hit those links in the description below. Now, on to the lesson.
Materials list for this tie aren't overly extensive. We've got our Colorado Vise, our Eupheng 051 number 14 hooks, olive thread in an 8 or a 10-aught, black thread in a 10-aught, orange UV thread in a 10-aught, flat medium pearl tinsel, Coq de Leon, I like medium pardo on this one, lead-free wire. We're not going to use the wire today because we got an oversized bead, but if you're using a smaller bead, I'd use wire for weight. UV resin, UV light, scissors, bodkin, whip finisher, razor blade, that's optional as well.
Your Aventik Colorado Vise comes with this really nice hard case, great for storage and for travel. Good solid clasps, keep everything closed and secure. Speaking of secure inside, we've got laser cut foam, keeps everything nice and padded and separate. Nice layout and design. The materials on this thing are pretty quality. Everything feels good, all the motion feels good, the rotation feels good, and I like the jaws on this to get the hook, and we're going to release the back here, and then whatever size we're tying, we're going to adjust this little adjuster here just to the outside width of the hook, and then lock it in place like so when we go to tie. Great design. It works really, really well. The base, nice and heavy enough for your main vise at home, but also it's light enough for travel. And all these different holes, you can use that to move the vise positioning or hold tools. This Colorado Vise comes with a bobbin cradle as well. You can position it anywhere you like, and it keeps your thread bobbin out of the way while you're wrapping other materials. And also this little tensioner tool here is nice. You can back it off or make it nice and tense so you can hold in place at any angle. And as mentioned before, we're going to use the Eupheng tying hooks. This is an Aventik company, and the metal on these hooks seems pretty solid. They're not too thin, not too thick. Point seems like it's great. Of course, you can sharpen that later down the road if you need to, and I've been enjoying these things. Now, you get 100 of them for the price of other companies that in a quantity of 25 or even 50, so that's great.
This is a slotted bead, so you want to make sure that bead is turned the correct way, down like that, so that you'll see how this bead pushes all the way forward and then drops down on that little drop on your jig hook. So it'll push forward and kind of turn down when you have it in the right spot, just like so. Now, I'm going to start off with my 10-aught olive Vise thread here and get a few wraps. Now, I chose to go with the bigger bead here. If you wanted to do a smaller bead, you can use the lead-free wire and make a few wraps behind your bead here. I do it both ways. Sometimes I don't like the bead to be so big. Sometimes I like a big bead. Whatever the deal is, however you do it, it's good to have some weight on the front end of this thing. All right, so we're going to lay the olive base, get a few good wraps in there, and work it backward and trim off the excess here. And I'm going to work backward toward the back of the hook here because I don't really want to lay any materials on a bare hook. I want to make sure I got the thread wraps going first. Now I've got my CDL, not to be confused with the CDC, the Col de Canard. This is the Coq de Leon medium Pardo. And I like medium Pardo because it works well for a lot of different patterns. Sometimes they want you to go lighter, sometimes darker. Good medium is just great. And you can be pretty sparse on the tail here. You don't want to add too many pieces. Just a nice light tail. I've got about 4 pieces there. You can even go with 3 if you want to. Got to capture and wrap backward and make sure that's nicely secured. And at this point, we're just going to build up a thread body here. And you can use an olive biot if you want to, as well as a really good segmentation. But if you just nicely wrap your olive thread going forward, and you want it to be nice and even all the way up. Build a little bit of width here. Move forward again and even that out. You don't want to go too wide here with your olive or when you get into the collar either, because it is going to add some thickness once we put that solar res on and get it hardened up. So that's about all we need for the olive body. So we'll just whip finish that off real quick. I don't need to be too specific about it because to get up underneath the bead, I like to use a little razor sometimes. Cut it nice and close. Quick, easy whip finish because we're going to put some more thread over the top of that. Now we're going to switch off to our black. If you have multiple bobbins, this is where it comes in handy. Now we're going to add some black to the thorax. Get that wrapped and captured again. There we go. Trim off this excess. And we're good. Now I just want to make sure I have plenty of olive showing, and I'm going to build up a bit of a black thorax here. Get it way up against the bead too. Hold that bead in place, wrap backward. I want to be just a little bit thicker here than the olive body. Kind of build a tapered bullet shape. And now we're kind of getting there. Before I get too far, now I'm going to take my medium small tinsel and I'm going to cut a little bit of length out of the tinsel, because this will be a flashback. There's some hot debate here because it's a jig. Some people want to put the flashback here, which is not wrong at all because this is kind of how a jig hook will ride. A lot of people want to do it here. It's much easier on the back, and I don't think it's wrong. It's a personal preference. Just to give it a little bit of flash somewhere, I think is the big picture. That's a little bit of fit. There we go, nice and centered. Wrapping back to the back of my black thread. Build up a little bit more of that thorax again. Make sure my bead is good and centered. There we go. And we'll pull that flashback forward, capture. Keep it centered on the top of that hook. There we go. Capture there and wrap it in front of the tinsel. Kind of pushes it away from the bead and allows for a nice clean cut back down in there. Sweet. Now we are almost done. This is not a difficult tie. So we're going to whip finish this guy. Don't make fun of my whip finisher either. This is super old. This is the first one I ever had. It's very basic, it's straightforward, and very easy to use. Okay, looking good. I'm going to get in there and trim that just a touch more. That flashback. There we go. Okay, we're almost done. But we're going to put a little bit of pop on this by giving it an orange color. Good capture. There we go. You try the razor blade, see if we get a better slice there. Again, just a couple reps because it's going to build up as we do our whip finish here. I'm only going to do 2 on that because it's getting thick already, and we still have the UV res to put on there anyway, so it's not going to, I'm not going to worry about it fraying on me. I'm just checking everything and tightening that thread up as I'm spinning to make sure everything's nice and even. Razor it off there. Okay, now I'm going to take my Solar Res Thin Hard UV resin. Grab the bodkin. Get a little bit of that on there. And I'll use this rotator to add a little bit to all sides. Just want my first coat on. Make sure it's all glued down nicely. Hit it with the solar light there, that UV light. Go back in and shape it a little bit more. You can add a bit of resin there up against the bead to fill in. There will be a little bit of a gap where that slotted bead kind of hits all the thread. And feel free to fill that in. Let's capture that before it starts running anywhere. Okay, there we go. Well, folks, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. Hope you really enjoyed that fly tying tutorial. This is one of my favorite patterns. I use it all the time. Again, if you don't mind, like this video, follow this channel, check us out on the social media channels elsewhere. We really appreciate it. It helps huge. Don't forget those links in the description below for the equipment that you've seen here today. And we just really appreciate you. I'm Nic Jovanovich. This is Into Fly Fishing, and we'll see you out here next time.
In this video, we're featuring the River Runs Colorado fly tying vise. It's a portable vise with a nice weighted base, fully adjustable with jaws, locking mechanism on the back, 360-degree rotation ability, and it comes with a bobbin cradle as well. It's a very nice, fully functional design, and you can adjust the tension on the rotation as you like as well.